Buying a guitar can be really overwhelming. I mean, just look at all these options that are behind me. So how do you figure all of these out as a beginner? Here are 5 practical tips that will help you boil down all of these options to the one that you actually need. You really should watch this video carefully because this comes from a lot of experience of trying a lot of different guitars, and the right guitar for you is only right for you. It's a very personal decision and it differs on your requirements and needs. So you have to decide it for yourself on basis of these points. Let's start off with no more talking, getting to the first point that you should keep in mind while buying your first guitar, which is size. So let's head back towards the wall and find a few guitars for you. Guitars come in a lot of different sizes. They come from small sizes to really large sizes. Let's pick up the smallest one possible over here, which would be this parlor sized guitar. So this is a tiny guitar and I love it, man. So parlor sized guitars are really special because they are the smallest guitars that you can buy. That makes for a really comfortable guitar to hold. The bigger a guitar is for a smaller person, the more uncomfortable it is to hold and play. The thing which you should keep in mind when checking the size of a guitar as a beginner is when you put your elbow over onto the top edge of the guitar over here, your hand should easily come over the sound hole. If you are struggling to make this happen and you have to do things like this, where your elbow starts to come over the body of the guitar to reach the sound hole, then it is probably too big for you. A small guitar would then suit you. So if you are less than 5 feet 6 inches, try smaller guitars first and then go for a bigger model. If you feel you are okay playing a bigger model, you can still go for it, but smaller guitars would suit you better. You will feel more at ease. Also, smaller guitars are easier to take around. So if you are going to classes, you want to take your guitar around, if you want to perform in future, have your guitar with you everywhere you go, a smaller guitar is more convenient. The downsides, the sound is not that great. Although on this one it's very nice. This is the Hex P300. It's a parlor sized, traditional looking, old vintage style guitar. And it's a really good sounding guitar because it has a nice solid top. But on most smaller guitars, when you compare them to something bigger, it's going to have less volume and also less dynamic range. So what is a big guitar like? Let's find one from the wall once again. So right now I'm looking for a dreadnought style guitar which has a very big bout, and I have one over here. This is the largest size possible in which you can find guitars. So this is what we call a dreadnought. These are absolutely jumbo guitars. Just look at the body of this one. So now when I put my hand over it, since I am a very tall person, this does not bother me in any way. My hand still comes over to the sound hole very easily. But if you're a smaller person, it might happen that you might have to stretch over a little bit like this while playing it, which is something you should avoid, especially as a beginner. But the advantage of having such a big guitar is that it's very loud, the projection is very good, and also it is having a lot of dynamic range. That is, you have good amount of bass, good amount of treble, and the differentiation between the sound, the quality of the sound is basically a lot better if you go in for a bigger body, more air to vibrate. It's a nicer sounding guitar. The downsides, very big, can be a little uncomfortable if you're a smaller person, and also difficult to take around. So having this on a bag, your bag is absolutely huge. You keep bumping it into places, you know, even when you're walking through doorways and stuff like that, you have to be careful that your guitar does not touch it. But is there an option which is not this big but not as small as the parlor size guitar? There is. Let's go find that one from the wall. So if you want something which is not as big as the dreadnought but not as small as the parlor size body, you should be looking at a grand auditorium shaped guitar, which is over here. So this is what you call a GA style guitar or a grand auditorium style guitar. Now this is not that big, so it's larger than the parlor size guitar, the travel size guitars. It is smaller than the dreadnought. And the sound is also the most balanced sound that you can expect. If you're looking to do any type of studio work with your guitar, where you're going to mix it with a lot of other instruments, these type of guitars suit you the best. Another great feature which you can look on when you're choosing the type of the guitar which you're playing is this cut-away design. So what this basically means is a cut-away portion on the body of the guitar. What this allows for is your hand to reach onto the top frets of the guitar with ease. But this is not a be-all and all feature for guitars, especially a beginner generally overrates this feature a little bit. People think that if a guitar does not have a cutaway, it's a bad guitar, but that's not the case. As a beginner, mostly you will never even be playing these frets, and moreover, you can also reach these frets on a traditional non-cutaway guitar as well, but it's always a nice thing to have if you can have it. So do look for the cutaway if you can find it. This brings us to the second point of our conversation, which is going to be the budget.
This is business.
Once you have finalized what is the right size for you, you should be looking at the budget that you have and looking at guitars of that size in that budget. So how much should you be spending as a beginner? Well, if you're trying to buy your first guitar and you want it to last, try spending around 7,000 rupees at least. That is the type of money in 2025 that will get you a guitar which will last you forever. It's not going to be a guitar which you have to change after a year or two. If you invest less than that, you can still buy a guitar. If you do not have 7,000 or if you feel it's too expensive, you can even buy a 2,000 rupee guitar. I started personally on the cheapest guitar possible, which you can buy from Amazon. So that's going to be a guitar which will last you for a certain amount of time. Go in with that mindset and be prepared to change it in a year or two. But if you want something which is solid, which will help you, not fight you while learning, and something that's just dependable for a long period of time as well, 7,000 rupees is that mark where you start getting that quality of a guitar. Alright, but if you keep increasing your budget, that is go up to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 rupees, you start to get nicer materials, nicer electronics, and also a better fit, feel, finish quality. But all of that is a nice thing to have, not really a necessity, especially talking if you are a beginner. That brings us to the third point in our conversation, which is going to be electronics.
Join me for the first time to hear how it sounds. And 1, 2, 3, 4.
So there are two types of guitars now. Ones which have something like this. You see this cavity on the side of the guitar? There are so many knobs and features, and also there's a place for you to plug in a cable over here on the side. These type of guitars are what we call semi-acoustic guitars. So they are an acoustic guitar, but you can also plug them in when you're performing. Imagine you just plug in a cable here and it gets amplified from the speakers that are connected on the stage. So that is how semi-acoustic guitars work. But as a beginner, do you really need these features is a question that you need to ask yourself. Alright, it's always a nice thing to have, but as a beginner, you will never use these features. The only useful thing that you get on here is actually a tuner. So now you don't have to plug on another tuner or use your mobile phone to tune your guitar. You have a tuner right over here on the guitar itself, which is a very useful feature. As a beginner also you will use. But when you go in for a semi-acoustic guitar, you are paying around 3,000 to 4,000 rupees extra. And in that 3,000 to 4,000 rupees, you can get a better guitar itself, especially when you're on the beginner price point of 7,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees. Spending another 3,000 to 4,000 rupees can bring you into a place where you are having a completely different experience in terms of the guitar that you are playing. And always remember, you can upgrade an existing acoustic guitar with electronics later on as well. When you feel like you're performing more, you have learned to play, you can go ahead and get a pickup installed from Procraft or any luthier that is around you. So it's always possible to upgrade your guitar. So do not give a lot of weight to the electronics, especially if this is going to be your first guitar. That brings us to point number 4, which is the material and the woods that are being used to make your guitar. So you will find guitars in two shades. One is a lighter shade like this. This is what is called spruce. So this is a European wood and it's a lighter sounding wood as well, just like the looks of it. It has more treble, it's a more bright sounding wood compared to something which is over there on the shelf. Over here, this one. If you take a look at this guitar now, this is a darker shade of wood. This is a mahogany guitar. You also find sapele guitars, so S-E-P-E-L-E, sapele. That wood is also a dark brown wood, just like this. Now these are tropical woods, they are denser in nature and they have a more bassier sound. They are not that bright. These guitars will have more bass. Now, how this is helpful is because this guitar sounds better when you're trying to sing along with it. When you sing along, your voice has a lot of treble, right? It does not have as much bass, and this just fills in that spot where the bass is necessary and does not fight with the treble of your voice. Whereas that guitar will kind of try to interfere with your voice. But keep in mind, this is a very, very minimal interference. It's not going to be to a point where you will feel like that is unusable when you're singing, but this is going to be a nicer companion if you're trying to sing along with it. Whereas that one will sound better if you're trying to play a lot of fingerstyle, trying to play a lot of instrumental pieces. That will have a brighter and a more clear sound compared to something like this. So choose wisely depending upon your use case, either going for a spruce top or a mahogany or sapele top. That brings us to point number 5, which is accessories. So when you buy your first guitar, you might feel like the guitar is the only thing you need, but not really. There are so many other things which you should get when you are picking up your first guitar, especially some nice strings, because you are going to break your strings, especially while starting out. Have at least 2 pairs of spare strings when you're trying to pick out a guitar. Also, look for having a tuner. If you need one, you can always use your phone. But having a dedicated tuner is best, because when you open your phone, you might as well start scrolling, which is going to take away from your practice. You also need a capo in most cases as a beginner. So all of these things are going to cost you another 1,000 rupees. Apart from this, there are accessories like this strap. Not a necessity. Once again, if you're not standing up and practicing, if you're not standing up and performing, you can skip this for now and always get it later on when you want to stand up and play. But one thing you should not skip on is a really nice guitar case. Like this one over here. This is a really nice case from Enya, and if you open it, you notice it's going to have a really thick padding. This is great if you want to travel a lot with your guitar. But thick padded cases are expensive, going anywhere from 1,500 rupees to 3,000 rupees only for the case. So if you only intend to take it to your guitar class and back to your house, simple travel needs, for that you can even get a basic case which is not this thick. But if you want to take it around in your car, you keep moving your guitar around a lot, then invest in a good case, because that's going to protect your guitar. Also, a very nice practice to store your guitar inside your case, since it does not catch any dust that way. So that brings us towards the end of the video, and here I want to tell you, buy a guitar that you like. Whenever you walk into a store like this, or you're scrolling on the website, buying online, whatever speaks to your soul, whatever feels like it's special, feels like a calling to you, that is the biggest factor that you should be considering while buying a guitar. All the advice aside, something that you like, you're going to play and practice a lot more compared to something that you do not like, and that is the biggest factor for you succeeding in your guitar learning journey. So these were some practical tips from Procraft on buying your first guitar. I'll see all of you in our next video. You can watch some of these videos if you're looking to buy some of your first guitars. These are great recommendations. With that, bye bye. I'll see you all in the next one. Like, share, subscribe.